as sickening. How can you, as an adult, as a human being, sit there and listen to a young female telling you that a doctor is doing something to her that a doctor should not be doing? And you sit there and you tell that female to not say anything, to stay quiet. What does that tell her? That tells her that she's wrong, that she's the guilty part. And then obviously the past couple of years we've had an arise of sexual misconduct issues at the athletic level. College football, pro football, and it seems that line has not gotten any better. Now, I do believe that after these incidents with Nassar and after what happened with Baylor football, I do believe that there are teams and organizations that made drastic changes and made sure that they had people in place that knew that, hey, if somebody comes to you and says that something like this occurred to them, that you bring it to attention and that you make sure that it is handled, that you don't wipe it under the rug. I do think that there are improvements in that, but I still believe that there's some people in place that are in positions of power that they shouldn't be in. Because I just don't understand, as a professional and as a human being, that you can sit there and tell a young female that what she's telling you she needs to keep quiet on. Sickening. And like I said, even though what he's being prosecuted for in the state, the jurisdiction that's being prosecuted in doesn't carry the death penalty, I believe that we should have special circumstances. And this one, that involves several women, and that involves very young kids, and I stress the words, kids. Those mitigating factors, the jury and the judge should have the option of installing the death penalty. Should be able to override those circumstances. And he should be sentenced to death. Period. And when I read this article, one story that stood out to me out of the couple that I read was about a woman, Donna Markham, who got on the stand to look Nassar in the eye and tell her daughter's story, because her daughter wasn't there, because in 2009, at 23 years old, her daughter took her life. And Larry Nassar had a lot to do with that. That's troubling. And obviously applause to her and all those women that got on that stand today and looked him in the face. That takes a lot of courage. I can't imagine being in that type of position. But those are the mitigating factors that I believe the death penalty should be installed. Period. Going on to the NBA, the Warriors beat the Cavs yesterday. Look, I don't know where the Cavs are. They've lost 4 in a row. The year they won, the year they beat the Warriors in the finals, came back from 3-1 down. that season, that's when they had David Blatt. He got fired and replaced by Tyronn Lue. We all said, oh my gosh, there's issues there, there's problems there. They went on and won the title. Last year around this time, they had a slid, there were problems. People said, oh, they're not going to make it to the finals, blah, blah, blah. They got to the finals. Yes, they lost in 6 games, but they still got there. Is this any different? Is what we're seeing now with the Cavs being January, knowing that there's still, 3-4 months left in the season, is this real panic? Is this real concern? Should Cavs fans and players and representatives be worried? I do think, and I said this at the end of last season, that I thought LeBron would move on after this season. I firmly believe that. I think the Cavs not getting Paul George, the quote-unquote mishandling of what happened there with Kyrie Irving, I think LeBron's ready. I think he's going to move on. And yes, Paul George is going to be a free agent again at the end of this season. But really, when you look at that Cavs team, and I know, everybody wants to play with LeBron. But there are still people out there that believe that LeBron may have talked to Carmelo and may have talked to Paul George and told them, don't go here. But on the flip side of that, why bring over Dwayne Wade? Why bring over Derrick Rose? We know LeBron had a factor in that. And granted, have Wade and Rose been a factor? No. Is this team any better than what they were last season? Well, their defense isn't. And that's been a lot of their issue. That's why I really didn't understand the whole Isaiah Thomas acquisition. Yes, Thomas is good on offense. He can set up the outside. He can shoot threes very clean. He's a great offensive player. But he lacks in defense. Isaiah Thomas is pretty much what Kyrie Irving was. And Kyrie Irving in Boston has gotten better on defense. Now, is Isaiah still in the midst of getting back from that hip injury and not 100%? Yes. But I don't think all of a sudden he's going to turn into this dynamic defensive player. And that's what the Cavs need. And are there chemistry issues there? Absolutely. The chemistry, and we've talked about this before, you can have great players, but it's about chemistry. The early days of the Heat, with Birdman and Wade and Bosh and LeBron and Ray Allen, all-star combination, great roster. That first season, you lose to the Mavericks in the finals. And they could have had more titles there. Chemistry is a huge thing. And right now, I don't think they have that. Now, do we need to be talking, it's the downslide, it's the back end of it? I've heard some people say LeBron doesn't care right now because it's still quote-unquote early. And it is early. We're 23, 24 games in. There's 60-something games left in the season. Plenty of time before the postseason starts. They're third in the East behind the Celtics and Raptors. Last season, they didn't get the number 1 seed in the East. They got second to the Celtics. And they got into the postseason, and they didn't lose a game. Didn't lose a game until that Eastern Conference Finals round against the Celtics. I do think they'll get it together, but I do think that there's a good shot that the Celtics can beat them in 7 games. And this is what I tell everybody with the Cavs and, talking concern in January and blah, 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 because it seems like we've done this the past 2 seasons. And does this feel different? Yes, it does, because this team was supposed to be better than last season's team, and right now it isn't. You can make the argument that their defense right now is worse than what it was at this point last season. But again, Isaiah Thomas is not 100% right now. We know that. But the comments of, LeBron doesn't care right now. It's January. He cares. Okay, I don't care if it's the second game of the season or if it's the 25th game of the season or if it's the last game of the season. He cares. Every player on that team cares. Now, are there moments where you say, okay, we need to rest it here, we need to space it out, we need to get ready for the playoffs? Yes, there is. But right now, at this moment, they're not better than the Celtics. Chemistry-wise. Defensive-wise. You can make the argument that they're not better than the Raptors right now. Chemistry-wise. And defense-wise. Talent-wise, are they better? Yes. They have the overriding talent. Not showing it right now, though. And it's chemistry issue. That's the bottom line. Do I think they'll get it fixed? Yes. But I do think that this is, and again, going back to the regular season, it's different when you beat a team once, and then when you get into the postseason and you got to beat them in a best of 7. That's a totally different atmosphere. And right now, if I gave you Celtics, Raptors, and Cavs, and I said you got to win 5 of the 7, who are you taking? Most people, even though the way they're playing right now, are going to take Cavs. Because that's a hard team to beat in a best of 7. But yeah, there's issues there. I mean, that's clear. But again, I think a lot of it is Isaiah Thomas not being 100% and trying to figure out what works best. And that takes a while. Just like in offense in the NFL, getting a team clicking and moving, that takes a while. Look at Carolina in the first 4 or 5 games of the season. Look at New England in the first 3 or 4 games of the season. They weren't clicking. They weren't looking too good. They ended up getting it moving. But I go back to that Isaiah Thomas thing. I still did not. I know Kyrie wanted out, and you're trying to get the best that you can for him. And obviously, the best that they could do was that trade with Boston, and that's where Kyrie wanted to go. But you really didn't upgrade. You really didn't. And I do think that Irving is a better 3-point shooter than Isaiah is. And his defense, since getting to Boston, has improved. Can you imagine that Boston team right now if Gordon Hayward wasn't done for the season? And that's a huge key for me here. Because I do like the Celtics. I do think that this season they have the best shot of getting to the finals over the Cavs. But if they had Gordon Hayward right now, I'd be taking them all day. I'd stand here right now and tell all of you I'd put all my money on them to get them. And like I said with the Cavs, it's with Isaiah Thomas, you really didn't upgrade there. You got pretty much what Kyrie is in Isaiah Thomas. You needed to improve that defense. You didn't.